Greetings, everyone. I'm Lance Dunahoe, and welcome to this edition of DFW Real Estate's Best Podcast, where we introduce you to the top producing agents and their vetted business partners, the real movers and shakers in DFW Real Estate. This week, we have some amazing guests. One of the architects of the Austin improv comedy scene, performing over 7,000 shows across the world, author of the book Plays Well with Others, and CEO of Rialto Academy, Mr. Les McGehee. And his very special guest, an agent who ranks in the top 100 in DFW real estate year after year, and the one and only two-time cover girl of Real Producer magazine, Miss Carol Russo. So if you want to hear their stories, how they started, what inspires them, and how they got to be who they are, then tune in right now. Welcome to DFW's Real Estate Best Podcast, brought to you by Real Producer Magazine. Jordan, Rachelle, and myself come to you live every Wednesday at 11 o'clock from your favorite platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And before I introduce our guest, I want to share a little bit about the Real Producer community. Because, of course, Real Producer is a national magazine in over 100 markets across the country. And in DFW, we have 3 magazines currently. For now, stay tuned, folks. But essentially, 3 magazine communities made up of the top 500 agents in each one of those communities and their favorite vetted business partners, the best agents and the best businesses that they work with. And we get to share their stories with you. Today, we have a great show with 2 of my favorite Real Producer influencers, Les McGehee and Carol Russo. But before we get started, our podcast is powered by Lyndon Wilson and The Difference. And The Difference Radio live stream podcast provides video branding and digital business development solutions for small business owners and entrepreneurs locally and statewide. With over 750,000 viewers in 2021 and growing, The Difference can help any business grow their brand awareness and develop a message that humanizes your business in a way that grows your brand, expands your connections and relationships, increases your influence and relevance, and quickly helps you become known as a power player and a mover and shaker in your sphere, community, industry, and business world. So thank you, Lyndon Wilson and The Difference. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to introduce you to our guest, Miss Carol Russo and Mr. Les McGehee. Come on.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Great. Good to see you.
I am fine, Carol. How are y'all?
I'm good. Very good.
Welcome to the show. We talked a little bit before. I'm so excited about the show because I know both of you, and I know this is going to be a fun conversation. Before we get started, I would like for each of you to just quickly introduce yourselves to our audience, starting with you, Carol.
Okay, I'm Carol Russo. I am from the South Lake office, which is right between Dallas and Fort Worth. Of Compass. I've been a realtor for 26 years. Before that, I was a marketing director in the cellular agency, and I started my corporate world at Frito-Lay, which I still dearly love. I learned so much there. And I have 2 children. My husband is the CEO of a local cancer center, and everybody's really busy.
Right on. Well, we've got a lot of questions for you. I can't wait to dig into some of those things that you just mentioned. Les McGehee. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
When I was a child, let me skip forward a little bit. I was fortunate to be an entertainer a lot of my life. And while I was working as a professional entertainer with teams that did comedy shows, we would tour around the country, some business schools and some government agencies, including the Texas state government, got interested in my work. And so the state of Texas, Texas State Idea Fair, and Macomb School of Business did a 3-year study on my work, and that got me my first book deal. So I was a guy doing comedy, owned comedy clubs and things like that, who also had a book that's on the MBA mandatory reading list at major universities, and have gotten to help most of the Fortune 500, including one of my favorites is PepsiCo Frito-Lay. I did 6 years headlining for them at the Consortium for Graduate Study and Management, which was just excellent. And then, Lance, as you know, about 12 years ago now, almost exactly, I was asked to work with a lot of realtors. And I got really interested in what I think is the best entrepreneurial laboratory I've ever found out of all the industries I've helped, which is the real estate entrepreneur. And so since then, I've been a master coach. I've logged about 10,000 hours of coaching in real estate, grown about $1 billion in business, and really like working in this environment and being part of Real Producers as well.
Yeah. Well, Les, you've got a very eclectic resume. I can't wait to dig into a little bit of that. But Carol, I want to start with you just because you are the two-time cover girl of Real Producer, and it really is amazing. So this month, for the month of January, you are featured on the cover of Tarrant Real Producer, and congratulations. You're featured here because you are a top 100 top producing agent in Tarrant County, and then of course you were also featured in the February issue of Real Producer in 2020 when it was owned by a previous publisher. So it's amazing to me how this has kind of come full circle, and I love that features are just this great way to capture a moment, right? You know, it's like a little time capsule where you get to see who you are. I've got one on my wall right here where I was my inspection company was featured back in 2020. And I love just reading that because it was a marker in time. I see pictures of my kids. They've changed, and my story has changed a little bit. And I know that in this feature, you talk about reinventing yourself and about staying relevant. So how comparing the 2 years, 2 features, almost like a bookend, right?
Right.
How have things changed for you? How have you stayed relevant? Just looking back 2 years from that feature to this feature.
When and please let me say that I'm so honored to be the bookends, and that someone would think of me as a cover girl. Yes, I made it. I made it, and I'm so appreciative. And I love that, and I'll always have that title, and I just love it. So when we did the February, the previous owner of the magazine had interviewed a couple folks, and she called me one day and said, "Hey, you're going to be on the cover." I'm like, "Oh my gosh," of the first issue. And that was right before COVID. So that was February, pre-COVID. I mean, that's our world. Think how we're going to always look at this time frame as pre-COVID and post-COVID. And business was clicking along. Everything was good. Then the real estate market, we all thought, what's going to happen? It's going to shut down my listings that I had going on when we closed the world in March. Listings didn't want people through. What are we going to do? I'm never going to sell another thing. Lo and behold, in 26 years of real estate, the big COVID year was number one by probably 12, 13, 14 million dollars of sales.
Yeah.
And it was all about reinventing. Now, as we kind of come post-COVID, prices have gone up 36% in Dallas-Fort Worth. Yes, I sold my big house the year before. So my California buyers got a big increase. And it's all about reinventing yourself. I'm in a group now called the 6 a.m.ers with Compass, and our big focus is on motivation. It's a motivational group. And my word of the year is pivot to positivity. And as I looked back in my career, we did a lot of pivoting. Now the name of the game is listings. I've changed my marketing a lot to capture listings, as I know all the realtors in Dallas-Fort Worth have. We love our buyers, but being a buyer is challenging. As you know, you've probably put in 6 or 7 offers. How far over asking is reasonable? Is it right? How bad do you want a house? We have changed our world.
Yeah. Wow. You're so right. So much has happened in 2 years, and I think that's amazing. Just the idea of staying relevant. It does mean staying up on really the information that we get. And Les, I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because you really were kind of cutting edge, actually bleeding edge of some technology that helped a lot of our realtors get through all that, right? And it was almost accidental, except that I know you are so intuitive business-wise and you plan. But can you talk about that? I guess the technical term is you created an LMS, I guess, and you can explain what that is and how that helped realtors across the country.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Lance. Yeah. We're accustomed to over the 125 years of my adult life, I have learned to be accustomed to the fact that sometimes I'm arriving with the idea ahead of time and make sense of that and decide when to deploy it because I'm ahead of time. So a couple of years before the pandemic, my little company, Rialto Academy, that I'm very proud of, had developed an online campus platform that was interactive and could handle everything from meetings to production numbers and tracking and support brokerages and some of the big real estate companies. And so we did version 1, we learned about it, and then we did version 2. So I finished version 2 on February 6th of 2020. And a week later, on February 13th, one of the largest realtor associations in America said, Les, if anybody knows how we're going to get everyone together this upcoming year, I bet it's you. Do you have an idea how we can move into a virtual campus right away? And I said, it just so happens I'm on version 3 and I can have you up and running in 3 weeks. And so over the pandemic, we put 168,000 realtors so far on our virtual campuses. We're very proud of that. And it provides a place for them to interact, see culture. A lot of them are running their in-person things through our virtual campus now. They don't try and separate their building from their other work. And the virtual campus you're right that it's been a big game changer. The amount of engagement, who thrives, the incredible retention numbers that we were able to support this last year. And like Carol, Carol, thanks for knowing your numbers so darn well. Like Carol said, these were 2 years to do extremely well for people that were ready to do extremely well. And I was fortunate I got to support that with that technology. And we coached through it. As you know, I'm the master coach over here at Rialto Academy. And so we coached through those virtual campuses as well.
Yeah, Les, I remember right when all this, of course, kind of everybody shut down and had to go, could not participate in in-person classes. And all the realtor associations were scrambling. How do we use Zoom? How do we track? There's things that they have to do to be compliant with the state. And so what was amazing is you had already solved all that. They were trying to figure out how to integrate all these things in piecemeal, and you had already put it together in a platform where it was just one login and people could come in and participate in a class, get their, verify their identification, all those little details, and then get their certificate and have that sent to track. And it was just all on one platform. I was just amazed that you had that ready to go and nobody else had that. It was remarkable.
Lance, as you know all too well, there's a lot of timing involved in our business lives, isn't there? And I'm fortunate to be surrounded by people like yourself and the people that we run with, that we had belief in what we were doing, even though we knew we were ahead of the market and the market did not know how much they were going to enjoy our product yet. We didn't know how rapidly it was going to happen. The pandemic had a little bit to do with that. Yet when the time came, I was fortunate to have been ready already, as you say. Yeah.
Well, Les, you were also featured in the August issue of Real Producer Magazine. Let me find your.
I had that made into a set of pajamas, and I sleep in it every night. I'm so proud of that article.
I need to do that.
There you are.
Hey, that's me needing a haircut right there.
You. Look at this one though. This is one of my favorites. That's great. You'll see that, and one more. But I love what you said because Real Producer is more than a magazine. It's a community of the best agents and the businesses that they love, right? And I love what you said at the beginning of your article here. If I can find it again, you talk a little bit about community. You say communion, community, and communication never diminish in importance. Enjoy the extreme bounty available to you in these moments, the amazing wealth that becomes available when you have strength of community. I love that. I mean, the fact that you started your article with that quote says a lot about that. Can you tell us, you've been active, and I'll step back. You have participated in Real Producer since we launched this. Your writing team, which is also an award-winning writing team, which I'll let you explain a little bit about that, and had really, I think, created a foundation for us to successfully launch in this. But you understood the power of this community of the top producing agents, and then the vetted businesses, meaning the ones that the top agents refer to us that are in this community, in this beautiful blue ocean that we're now in of collaboration. But tell us a little bit about your experience here with Real Producer, and then generally that power of community.
Well, first of all, you guys were going to succeed because of who you are. And I'm so unsurprised at your growing success. Let's get that out of the way. Yet I am very fortunate that I got to contribute, and I appreciate that. Yeah, the thing about community that I like to remind people is a little bit like Carol referred to. It's like a class in high school almost, or your whatever year was important to you. Was it your sophomore year of college, your senior year of high school? We're going to remember the people we ran with during this period of time, and the people that we supported their goals and they supported our goals. And so the question can sometimes become, how do I strengthen that? And the way I like to think of that, I like analogies. And the way I like to think of that is like a piece of cloth. You notice that to buy a high fiber thread count sheet costs more and is a superior product to a low thread count sheet. And so when we make connections in our community through communication and communion together and sharing what we're going through, what we're doing is we're adding threads to that thread count, and we're strengthening that entire fabric that is what holds us together as a community. So we're part of the same glorious quilt, and our quilt is getting stronger every day we do things like this that you provide through Real Producers. This community is gaining thread count and becoming a stronger and stronger piece of cloth, and we get to enjoy succeeding with the people that we're running with. And so that's what I meant by that. And I think, recognizing that community, communication, and communion, they're all coming from the same word. We're talking about the same thing, different approaches that strengthen the same thing. And it is true. I believe in it deeply. It's one of the things I love about working in the Real Producer community.
Yeah, Les, and I mentioned earlier, well, I want to touch on your writing team, but real quick, just about community. I love what you said there, because it's something that Jordan and Rachelle and myself, we really do. We really try and maintain the integrity of our partners, because not every partner is equal, but if they show up with an attitude of collaboration and are not afraid of healthy competition within each other's industry, it's amazing how much the strength, the fiber count, as you said, just really improves what we do, and it benefits everybody, because ultimately we know that we're one relationship away in so many cases from changing the trajectory of our business. And when we have solid business partners, that type of collaboration, it's not just 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = infinity. The opportunities are amazing.
I love that, Lance. Yeah. Also, remember, it's good to remind ourselves that we want good competitors. We desire good competitors. We're talking about the thread count and a beautiful piece of fabric that describes our best years ever. It's not like we want broken threads and weak threads in there. We want good competitors. There's a little bit of agent movement. There's a little bit of sharing of market communities. Do you want to talk to someone who just spoke to a horrible realtor? Or do you want to talk to someone who spoke to a really good realtor? You just happen to have beat them.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fact that us playing at the top level, like Carol's a great example. Carol beats some of her fantastic peers once in a while, and maybe once in a blue moon, they have a chance to take a client away from her, and so be it. It's people working at the highest level, like in athletics. We desire good competitors.
Right. But bringing realtors together, when you're on the other side of the table, you're the buyer and the seller, you're all reaching for one goal. The more you trust and know about and understand the person on the other side helps you to negotiate better and more completely for the client that you're representing. And you're never at odds with each other. You're always working to the same goal. And that through Real Producers, I love the stories. I'm not a magazine gal, but I read that magazine cover to cover because it has helped me to negotiate and make myself better by understanding the other realtors that have been featured. Love it. Love it.
Well, thank you. You know, and I think that's the thing I love the most about this too, is this platform that we have is such a unique opportunity because, you know, you're on the cover here, but you're not necessarily talking about your success as a realtor. This is really more your personal story. And so people get to know you as a person,
Yes.
way more of a, you know, a personal feature. It's not an advertisement. Everybody knows you're a badass, Carol. And so,
Yes.
So we just kind of have that understood. This goes out to your peers. And I know that when they see you coming, just like when you walk in a room, and I want to talk about this, you know, the atmosphere changes and people love working with you. And now we just rolled out the red carpet. And so I'm so glad that we got to do this for you, because I do love, in fact, we just had a recent magazine celebration party, right? Where we got you and the other agents that were featured in the January and their December issues and our partners together. And I always say this, when you walk in a room, it's like the atmosphere changes. It's like, you know, there's just an energy that comes about, and people are drawn to your warmth, your intelligence, your professionalism. But there's this twinkle in your eye that just says, my dad would say, her water runs pretty deep. Like there's
Awesome.
a depth about you that I think you are able to connect so well with people. And I kind of want to talk about that because you shared a little bit about this at our celebration party. Some of that comes hard earned too. It's not like you've just had everything handed to you. Your family, your husband, y'all work in an industry that is heavy. You know, sometimes the dinner table topics are probably pretty heavy, but with that comes an understanding, I think. Can you share a little bit?
Certainly. So when there's 4 of us and my son is married, so now there's 5 of us. So when we get together for Sunday dinner, which we're so blessed that the kids live in Fort Worth, so we generally always have Sunday dinner. You know, I have a good day and I say, you know, I helped the Smiths move into their house. It was a great week. My son is an assistant district attorney, and he'll say, well, I put a drug criminal. Now he's in felonies. He's working in murders. I got to put somebody, you know, who needed to be away. But my husband is the CEO of a cancer center. My daughter's a nurse practitioner in oncology. She does a lot with bone marrow. And their stories, you know, it just makes us be so blessed. And yes, this COVID time is hard. But when they come to the table, and they're limited, of course, because of HIPAA, what they can say, but they're talking about, you know, a 30-year-old woman who had a mastectomy and and all the challenges of the family. It just reminds us that we're so blessed to be, whether as realtors, we've had a good year, a great year, somewhere on the curve, because it always, as all of us who are entrepreneurs, it's up and down. We're just so blessed to have whatever it is that we have and our good health. That was one of the gentlemen that's in a ninja group that I'm in is the broker of Remax, and his word of the year was health. And I thought, and he said, it's the basis of everything we have. It's the health that we're able to get up and put our feet on the ground in the morning and continue. And, you know, if we make that our gratitude in the morning and start our day writing down 4 or 5 gratitudes every day that are different, you'll realize how much we have. And how can you not show up with a sparkle in your eye when we're blessed to do what we do?
Amen.
That was beautiful. Yeah, I appreciate it. That was a great story.
Yeah. Les, I know you've got, as I mentioned, you've got an eclectic background. I've described you as a Renaissance gypsy mystic, you know, with a deep understanding of people and business and real estate. Where does that all come from?
You know, Lance, I think there were 2 things that primarily led to me having such an interesting path to here with y'all today. One of them was the moment when I started to recognize what was in common amongst all the trouble I was getting into. I'd gotten into trouble so much in school, in my little country school north of San Antonio, Texas, that they ran out of punishments and we had to be creative. And it wasn't anything bad. I was just a kid from a school where people were a little bit more advanced, and I'd gotten out to the country, and it was pretty boring. And so I got in trouble a few times. I put a few dirty pictures on the world history guy's map, had to wait 2 days for him to pull that darn thing down. And he said, let's go to the office, without even turning around. He didn't even turn around and look at me. He didn't consider it could have been somebody else. He just said, let's go to the office. That was the environment I was in. Now, at the same time, I was under scholarship and straight A's, and I'd already got my scholarship to the University of Texas, and I had made a movie. And so I was in the local newspapers and stuff. So the principal and vice principal called me into the office, and they said, this is tough on us because everyone talks about what a great kid you are, and all we're doing is making you scrub cafeteria tables and coming up with every punishment we can. And all in that moment, in that nugget of time right there, I thought, well, these folks need a hand in figuring this out. So I looked at the principal and vice principal in their office, and I said, that's an interesting dilemma. Let's see what kind of options we have on the table. And I walked them through it with a full needs analysis. And I walked out of that punishment session with the keys to the school station wagon and 2 days off a week and a little slideshow that I would take to the middle school to tell them how to behave when they got in high school. And as I was leaving, I said, is it okay that I take the station wagon on my own? And they said, no, take your friend Howard with you, because they were about sick of him too. And so I got me and Howard 2 days off a week and a station wagon while negotiating trouble. And that was when it dawned on me that all the trouble I was in had something in common, that these people needed good consultation and ideas and advice, and I might be the guy to help. And so I started like that. And then one of their punishments was a talent show. They'd never had a talent show before. And since I'd been in a movie, they very angrily said, you will put together our first talent show. And it wasn't a small deal, okay? It was a 150-seat cafetorium in the country. All right. So we put together a little talent show, and I didn't know anything about putting together a talent show, yet I did. And I wrote 3 jokes because I figured it was going to be like the Oscars in a cafetorium. And so I wrote these 3 jokes, and the first one was so bad it was confusing. I don't even know if they knew it was a joke. The second one was also bad. The third one went okay. The third one, I had taken Paul McCartney's song Yesterday and replaced the lyrics. Y'all pardon me ahead of time. I was a teenager, yet I replaced the lyrics with words about leprosy. Don't tell your kids, Carol. They'll think I'm rude. But leprosy, all my parts are falling off of me. Now my nose is where my mouth should be. All because suddenly I'm not half the man I used to be. I didn't even write that line. Okay. Paul wrote that line, yet I used it in my joke. And then, like in a movie, one of the 3 judges, a guy who owned a community theater, one of the 3 judges came up to me afterwards. I'm so old, y'all. The record player had broken during the talent show, and the coach who was in charge of punishing me told me to kill time while he went to the library to get the other record player that the high school owned. And so I had to kill 13 and a half minutes. And I walked out there, and I was very comfortable, and I talked for 13 and a half minutes. And this guy who was one of the judges said, I didn't know there was going to be a teenage comedian in the show tonight. And I said, were you watching? Because I don't know if that went too well. And he said, well, nobody needs your jokes. I'll tell you that right now. But that thing where you talk for 13 minutes off the top of your head, if you'll do that for me day after tomorrow and open a show for me at the San Antonio Convention Center, that would be great. And I said, no way. And he says it pays $185. And I said, I believe a professional shows up about an hour early. And I opened the show for a person who was famous at the time named Paul Rodriguez. And from that moment on, people wanted to keep me working. And it put me in what I called the don't ask, don't tell phase of my life, because I was underage working in comedy clubs, and they didn't want to know because I wasn't supposed to be in there, and I was doing a good job. But the reason I tell you that story is I look back on those moments when that principal and vice principal allowed me to negotiate, when they allowed me to have that car and go prove myself, when that guy put me on a stage in front of 5,000 people for my very first stand-up show. I look back on those as leadership moments. And we talk a lot about what components of leadership are, yet looking back in my own life, those people had alternatives. Sure, I was a talented man, right? But they had alternatives. I think those were leadership moments that that caused me to go on a path. And so I welcomed it. And I welcomed it when the MBA school showed up. And I welcomed it when the United States government put me on tours for the troops overseas. I welcomed it. And when you combine that with an insatiable curiosity and love of learning and love of adding people to what we're talking about, the fabric of community, then it was just my pleasure to accept these really great challenges. And they often started with, like when the Veterans Health Association nationally got a hold of me, I had learned by then to say, clearly you didn't start with me. Clearly you have PhD people and it didn't work. And then I guess you hired the best-selling author and it didn't work. And then I guess maybe you went for some scientist somewhere and it didn't work. Tell me about all the things that didn't work. And then somebody said, well, Les is pretty good at things that other people can't figure out. And so that provided me the path that added up to the numbers. And it was so much fun. When I look back at the numbers, it sounds like I did a lot of work, yet I barely remember working. We did 7,000. I personally did 7,000 appearances in 15 countries. And most of that was by request. So while I have built some really wonderful things on purpose and seen the future a couple of years ahead of time in business a few times, I really have to be grateful to these people who in these leadership moments made choices that allowed me to grow an inch taller each time.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. Like I said, Les, you've got an eclectic background for sure. And you've got a great book that is being used. The training that you have, the program that's come out of that is being utilized in MBA programs. And of course, you've trained the VA and real estate agencies and nuclear scientists. So, a lot of things. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Plays Well with Others was the first one.
Where'd you go? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Plays Well with Others was the first one. It looks like that. I can't wait for the second edition because I'm pretty sick of that haircut. Will you look at that haircut? Look at that photo. It looks like a barracuda that has a bad crop of hair right there. So I can't wait. The book has done quite well, though, and that was the first one. And I published about 8 books for real estate industry that were purchased by the big real estate companies themselves. Mm-hmm. But that was the book that started it all. And the idea, I think, it was another gift that I'm not entirely responsible for being ahead of. It was another gift to me that it incorporated what I believed about community and humor and what I was able to figure out about business and accelerating business. And the education that I got was such a gift. I've consulted in, according to my manager, when we quit counting, I had consulted 50 different industries, over half of the Fortune 500. And I was the guy they brought in through the side door because I was the comedy guy who had business credential. And to this day, I got a text just last week from somebody saying their kid had just been told to read my book at Macomb School of Business at the University of Texas. And so I'm the biggest benefactor here of I'm grateful for the moments that allowed those things to go forward. That first book is called A Handbook of Improvisation and Play. And the second edition will be out at the end of the year. There's another book that will get published soon called Recess, about the importance of recess. Recess, when the United States government said, if you states will open schools, we'll give you some funding. In the first 7 pages, they don't mention reading, writing, arithmetic once, but they mention recess 3 times. And it tells us a little bit more about what we really believe about recess and where our thoughts really get a chance to come together other than just in the act of learning and things like that. And then, Lance, I don't know if I've mentioned to you before yet, a bunch of the people that we help and that we coach published over the pandemic. So it looks like I'm going to appear in some manner on 3 other books this year. So wow. It's going to be one of my biggest publishing years in the last decade.
Yeah. Well, I love what you say about recess. In fact, Carol, I know that you've got a place that you love to spend some time to kind of unwind and probably do some of your best thinking. Tell me about recess for you. What do you do for fun?
Well, recess in the morning every day starts at Orange Theory, which I love. And people might say that's torture, but I love it, love it, love it. If anybody's not tried it yet, here's your commercial. Try Orange Theory. The first one is free. You just walk in and you do what they tell you to do for an hour, and it's hard, and you can make it harder if you want to. Love that. And we also, one of the best things that we've done as a family, and I suggest this to, I have two suggestions for all realtors. We talked, especially through the pandemic, about getting away. And, because we are on the phone all the time, we are on call a lot. Unless you're part of a huge team, you are the one that answers the phone. I prefer to be an individual agent, so I'm the one that answers the phone. We got a lake house. And it's close enough. Ours is at Eagle Mountain Lake, which is just north of Fort Worth. It's close enough to town that I can meet you when the hot house came on the market. We can show it in an hour. And that's the key. Don't go 3, 4, 5 hours away. You'll not be comfortable, and it'll cause you more stress. Get something local. And if you can spend 3 hours there in an afternoon, I like Wednesdays. I'm usually not there on the weekends when other parts of the family are, but I'm there like Wednesday afternoon a lot. You can work out there and you look out, and it's, you got the water, whether it's snow, weather, whatever it is. I love to kayak. So that's out there. My other suggestion to realtors, unless you've mentioned MBA a bunch, I didn't have your book as an assignment in the MBA school. I have a feeling I'm older than you are. So that I was probably before that. But as realtors, the market is difficult right now, and people are not financially struggling, but mentally, the market is very challenging. I think more so than I've ever seen a market in 26 years. I've suggested to many realtors, if you need something to keep you grounded, go to MBA school. You can do it online. What you learn. So I started with a graphic design degree, and never in a million years taught real estate. So I was at Frito. I was in the cellular industry, turning on cell sites and doing ad campaigns. And we moved from my husband's job. We moved again. I found myself in Houston teaching aerobics and thinking, okay, what's the next step? And therefore you fall into real estate. And what a blessing. Never did I dream it would be a career. And now I'm so thankful that it is, because I love every day is different. But going back to MBA school, I pull on that. I did it, the 5-year plan during the corporate life, and I moved, I traveled with my job, and lo and behold, finally got my MBA. But you pull on that every day, whether it's the financial part or the accounting or the negotiation and the marketing. For a realtor, there is no better preparation. I know we can all go to real estate school, and it teaches you this much of what you need to learn. But as a realtor, you pull on the backside. And for me, I love, although I didn't love it going through it, now it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And I encourage all realtors to think about that, even if it takes a long time and you do one class at a time like I did. What you learn there and what you learn about yourself and the discipline for entrepreneurs is you just can't, there's nothing better.
Here, being learning based, right? Being learning based,
Yes.
That's a beautiful description. Yeah. I appreciate it. You grow yourself, go forward. Since y'all are sharing words of the year, mine is actually 2 words. Over here, we're saying go ahead. We've been the unicorn ahead of time quite a bit, yet we have more momentum than we've ever had before. So we're just going to go ahead. We're just going to go ahead and offer the things as they come to us. Go ahead and build them with confidence. Some folks don't understand what we're building, and they understand it about the time the construction is finished. So we're just going to go ahead. And so in the pandemic, one way to go ahead was to learn, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Love
absolutely.
It. Carol, and I love what you said too, because even back to your Orange Theory, you're talking about starting the day doing something hard, but getting your MBA and going through that, accomplishing a big goal like that too, that gives you so much confidence. And it's all the little steps, everything you had to sacrifice along the way, your time, the decisions, the choices, that then obviously provide something of such value to you, an experience and an insight that you get to share with your clients that distinguishes you.
Yes.
One of the things too that I meant to mention earlier, a lot of our agents that are in the top 500, are agents that have a team supporting them. We try our best to figure out all these numbers. But Carol, you're an independent agent, aren't you? I mean, you're in the top 5, top 100 as an independent agent. You don't have anybody else's numbers kind of propping you up, right?
No, I don't.
How do you do it?
And I'm not the most disciplined person. I just know it, and I just don't let the details fall behind. So it's not all check boxes written down. I must say that I never plan to be Carol Russo Real Estate. I really value the company that's behind me. I recently changed, and I love it. I love the technology department and the IT and the marketing. My marketing gal here is amazing. Love you, Katie. Love you, Taylor. They are
somebody
amazing.
that knows marketing.
So it's not just, yes, it's me. And yes, I'm the only one bringing in the numbers and the money, but there is a team behind me. And so for those people that go out and become their own brokerage, which is a great way to do it as well, they bring their whole staff with them. I'm allowed to be individual because I've got great people supporting me. And I like the idea of, if it's right, I'll take credit for it. If it's wrong, I made a mistake. And I'm taking credit for, what's good and bad is a good entrepreneur, I believe, because you are the bottom line. You're the one that makes it or breaks it. And I think as an individual agent, you have to be willing to try new things. And you're not leading a stream of ducks behind you. There's a new opportunity for a new digital ad campaign. Okay, let's do it. And you just sometimes, as you said, Les, you have to be in front of the crowd, and being individual allows me to do that.
Wow. Well, and it sounds like you're supported by a lot of great habits. And I have to, Les, I see over your shoulder one of my favorite books, Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit.
Always within reach.
Yeah. It is a powerful, Carol, you get up every day I don't know how often, but go to Orange Theory. But it sounds like you may not have all these check boxes necessarily, but you've got these powerful habits in place that allow you to keep up and be you, the authentic you.
Yes.
Les, so for 2022, did either of you decide, did you make a New Year's resolution? Do you have any new habits that you're trying to break into your routine?
I think I'm just refining. Last year was a really good year for my behavior habits, and go ahead. My word for this year, my focus for this year kind of reflects that those were good choices. They brought me here. To quote, some of my clients are ex-military, some of my coaching clients, and one of them says, he's an ex-Marine. He'd say, I'm refining my shot group. And so I'm going to refine my shot group. I like my habit choices. They're responding really well. To use a phrase I also use with my coaching clients pretty repeatedly is, I'm better than I was, just not nearly as good as I'm going to be. And that's my focus for this year.
Love it. Carol, anything new for 2022? New habits?
Yeah, I taught a class. So I belong to a ninja group. It's a system, and we've been meeting every Monday at 10 for the last probably 10 years, even longer. It'll be 10 years this year. Actually, we went to Fort Collins to finalize that ninja training. So I was able to teach our class on Monday, and we talked about your morning routine. And everybody, all 13 of us in the room, went around and talked about the morning routine. Of course, mine has everything to do with brushing your teeth, putting your clothes on, and getting out the door to go to the gym. And two of the other gals said, oh, no. We have a journal, and we write just 5 gratitudes, just five simple things every day. And that's the way we start our day. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, that's my, so I got a little tiny notebook that I put next to the toothbrush, and 5 things I'm grateful for every day. How can your day go wrong if you start it with that attitude of gratefulness and abundance? And then I think you will just attract business. And sometimes, we're not as, we're great to our clients, right? In the classroom and on stage, we're, well, we get home and we're not that same person sometimes.
Yeah.
And more than we want to be. And so this grateful behavior, one of the gals was talking about, really helped her change her attitude. At work, it's always fine, but at home is where you need to just pivot a little bit. And so that's my goal for 2022. Also, we're reading a book called, I think it was in the Compound Effect, in my 6 a.m. motivation group. And one of the stories in that book talked about writing something about your spouse or your significant other every day that they did for you. And that was their Christmas present the next year. Oh my gosh. Hit me like a ton of bricks.
Beautiful.
What a great gift.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew the strategy. Yet the idea of making it a gift at the end of the year, that's a big plus. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know who wrote The Compound Effect. I've just been listening to the audiobook. It was very good. And after we read your book, you should read The Compound Effect. But it was he who did that. And he said his wife just bawled like crazy when she got that and realized that, he took out the trash and he got her a cup of coffee. All that stuff you think is it happens. It's what we do for each other. But that she realized that he appreciated that, just made their marriage better. And wow. I think we can all use that.
That was beautiful. That's just beautiful. Reminds me quite a bit of Susan Scott, Fierce Conversations book as well, where she takes a couple and the couple's really aware of the things they're doing that are annoying each other. And what you focus on ends up being the boss of you a little bit. So they had learned to focus on and run through this list of the things that annoy them about each other. And they went to see their priest. And the priest said, well, I'll support the preacher in this book. And they said, the preacher said, I'll support whatever decisions you make and I'll nurture you guys through it. Yet first you got to do a month of an exercise for me. I need you to write down every day something wonderful that your spouse did for you. Doesn't matter how big it is, just do it every day. And when they came back a month later, the preacher says, are we continuing this conversation about divorce? And their response was, why would I want to divorce this person? And so just changing the story that they're, the rumination that they had gotten locked in accidentally, that's a very powerful thing to choose the form of rumination that we're going to use. It's really our life. Things are being run by our subconscious as much as our conscious. Our subconscious is so darn good that it allows our ego, which is the one of us in front of the groups, like you said, I guess, the portion of us in front of those groups looking like a rock star. Our subconscious is so good, it's going to allow our ego to think it's running the show. Isn't that generous? And meanwhile, what we're thinking about all day is going to texture every decision, every expectation. I think that was a really beautiful thing for you to bring to the conversation, Carol. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Carol, similar to you, I've done something a little bit different. I read a book by Dan Sullivan called The Gap and the Gain. And it really has some incredible insights about that elusive horizon that we as entrepreneurs are always chasing, that goal that we're trying to measure ourselves against versus sort of kind of like your feature, where you were 2 years ago to where you are now, and really seeing how far you've come. That's the gain, and between there and the future is the gap. And we try and stay in that gain moment, being present and aware. But for me, one of the suggestions that I really have embraced is at the end of the day, before I go to bed, is write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, or actually 3 wins really is. And it's ending the day with an attitude of success. And it can be, a win overcoming something bad, but really embracing the wins for the day. And then kind of less what you said, then what happens when I go to sleep, my subconscious, and then I'm thinking also about the wins for tomorrow that I'm looking forward to. My brain starts working on that and starts doing a lot of that work without me really, having to do the work. And I wake up with a different attitude and mindset, and I dream about things a little bit differently. My brain's organizing and processing things in some crazy ways. So it's been a lot of fun, but isn't that funny? I mean, what a great. It's
great how that works. Lance, you and I had a conversation that really influenced me, where we keyed on a thing to do with this that I think would feel really good here, which is gratitude. When we're in a place of gratitude, that sends the message to God and the universe that we're ready for more. Yeah. Right. Because
I
if we're
love that.
ruminating, think about it, when we're ruminating on how much trouble everything is, God and the universe is going, okay, we get it. You're not ready for more. You're overwhelmed. And then when we reinforce that, no, actually, have so much to be grateful for. I have time to think about my gratitude every single day. Well, your subconscious and God and the universe get together and they say, oh, we're ready to circulate a little bit more around to them. They're ready to handle that. They're ready to go. And so gratitude has a real functionality in what we get next in life, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. Well, we've got about 10 minutes and I've got a couple announcements that I want to bring Lyndon on. Speaking of gratitude and being ready for more, Jordan and I, when we launched Tarrant Real Producer this year, or last year now, we decided that this would be the third publication in DFW. We have Dallas, North Dallas, and Tarrant Real Producer. And Tarrant Real Producer really covers, from almost, Denton all the way down to Mansfield, the territory that our magazine covers. And we really realized that there was two distinct real estate communities within that, pretty much, Fort Worth and North Fort Worth, and just different identities and businesses that work together and agents that work together. And so, we had to ask ourselves, are we ready for more? Have we been serving our clients and our agents? And we just determined that, yes, it was the time. So today we are officially announcing, and Lyndon, you're going to have to change the name under my, or the little tag by my name. We are officially rebranding Tarrant Real Producers, and it's going to be called North Fort Worth Real Producers. And then this summer, we are launching a fourth publication called Fort Worth Real Producers. So we're adding another 500 of the top producing agents to our now real estate community here in DFW. And of course, their partners. And I'm so excited because it was one of those things that we had to, have we really appreciated what we've created here? And are we going to be able to better serve our clients? And the answer kind of came back to us. Yes, definitely. And so excited about that. So the next issue of
way to go, Lance. Way to go, buddy. I am so proud of y'all's progress. This gives us faith in how the world works, because we believe these things that you guys are carrying forward. And you just added another 500 top producer threads to this beautiful fabric that holds us together. And I want to express gratitude for that. The people that I meet through your community that you foster, I'm fortunate for every single one of them. And way to go, buddy. Way to go.
Well, we found that there were just agents that, they were right on the edge of making our list, and they may have sold 25 homes, but they, they live in a different part of the Fort Worth where the homes aren't as expensive. And, there's all these different things. So we really feel like we're getting a better representation of those communities, and I couldn't be more excited. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to be making some more announcements as we move forward. So, Lyndon Wilson, you've been back there quiet, but I know you've got some things on your mind, brother. Come on out here if you want to show your face, or if you just want to be the Wizard of Oz today.
I'm gonna spare everybody today and not show my face. I'll just let you listen to me. No, I want to thank Les and Carol for coming on. Again, the community of real producers is phenomenal, and what I love about it, we created a difference 2 years ago on a quest to find out what makes the difference in being acceptable and being exceptional, and being able to interview so many different people. And sometimes in this highly competitive world we live in, not a lot of people are willing to share what their journeys have been like, what their paths have been like. Social media allows us to show our highlights, but it doesn't always show the lowlights. And so sometimes we kind of start to believe we're failing when everybody else is succeeding. And what is great about real producers is they have the authentic and genuine souls within their community that are willing to just share what reality is all about. And I want to touch on just one thing. Both of you, Carol and Les, both said some great things, but Les, when you started talking about gratitude, one of the things that we have determined in interviewing everybody is mindset is one of the most important things that can make the difference in how we approach everyday life and our struggles and everything like that. And gratitude fits, it is part of your mindset. Whether we want to believe it or not, every day we get up, there's something to be grateful for. there is something to be grateful for. We can feel sorry for ourselves because everything didn't go as well as we wanted it to, or we can be grateful for what did go well. And that, what I have seen is the people that are doing the exceptional job in their profession, in their careers, in their home life, as parents, as spouses, it's the ones that are have the most gratitude. I really believe that.
Absolutely.
I love that, Lyndon. Yeah, that is great, isn't it? It's interesting. Someone will say, yeah, I woke up this morning. I didn't think of as many gratitudes as I usually do. It's like, did you just hear what you just said? Let's see, you woke up this morning. You got a custom-made world laying right there waiting for you.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and think about it again. I bet you'll think of a few.
Yeah, that's great. Les, I love a trick that you've pulled on me a couple times. Like, well, basically, you ask me a question and I'll say, I don't know. And then you go, well, if you did know the answer, what would it be? and it gets your mind thinking like, and so it's just something like that. Well, if I did have something to be grateful for, then it might be this or that.
Yeah, another form of that you're really good at, Lance, is well, we don't know the answer on that. Do we know what it looks like? And we'll totally describe what that answer is going to look like. And so when it shows up, we recognize it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I got to tell you, this has been a blast. This feeds my soul when I get together with you guys, and I love. This is my favorite part of our job, is getting to sit down, hear your stories, share your experiences, and now get to share them with the world. So thank you so much for being guests on DFW's Real Estate Best. Lyndon, thank you so much for what you do and hosting us. How can, Carol, how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
My favorite is text me. You got my phone number on the screen.
Okay.
Of course, buyers and sellers, please call me. But other realtors, if you have questions or challenges in the market, I've been doing this 26 years, please jump in. My email is carol.russo@compass.com. Very easy. Just reach out. And if you need to just brainstorm on a contract, just holler. I'm here.
Yeah, Les, and we didn't touch too much on, and thank you, Carol. And we didn't touch too much on your coaching, but you've created helped create over $1 billion worth of wealth for your clients. How do people learn more about Rialto Academy?
Well, I suggest you use a software program. If everybody wants to make a note, now's a good time. It's google.com, and you'll find more about us than about me and my company than you'd ever want to know. The other thing I'll remind you is it's Les with one S. I'm in a one-man war against autocorrect. You can imagine what it wants to do to me. That's Les with one S. I got an ego to preserve here. My subconscious is doing its best. It's Les with one S. And yeah, Lance, I myself, we have a growing coaching company with quite a few really fantastic coaches and specialists. Yet having said that, we are really hungry to meet people that are serious about making things better, achieving goals, helping other people. If you're really serious about that, you're welcome to a free piece of help from us. If you're not serious about that, save yourself some trouble and choose a different coaching company. Yet if you're serious about growth and goals and helping other people, like Carol describes, if you're of this ilk, we'd love to hear from you. That'd be great.
Love it. Well, thank you both. And for those of you that have been watching today, thank you for showing up, being here. Again, this is a community of the best realtors and the businesses they work with. If you have a recommendation or referral for us, please reach out. We'd love to know the people that you know to strengthen the fibers of this community. So until next Wednesday, signing off, Lance Dunahoe, Les McGehee, Carol Russo, Lyndon Wilson. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.